Hello, Pupsters. Today I'm here with Raaga Kanakam. She is the general manager of our South Loop Club here in Chicago. And today we're going to talk about what it is that you should be looking for as a pet parent in a dog daycare business. And who better to talk to than Raaga, who runs our busiest club out of the 6 that we have here in Chicago. And Raaga, you've been in the dog daycare business for quite some time now, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So before I started as a manager here, I did nearly a year at another dog daycare, kind of as a kennel attendant. So that was my dog daycare experience. But before that, it was a lot of dog sitting, dog walking, things like that. So I've been in the business or industry for quite some time. Yeah.
So it's safe to say that you love dogs.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
What's your education and background?
Yeah, so my education, well, it's quite funny because I was an engineering major, and then I went through 3 years of medical school, and then I got so massively burnt out. I was like, I'm just gonna take a leave, and I'm going to try and do something completely different. And the dog daycare thing was completely incidental at the time. I just needed a job. But it was so different than what I was doing, and I feel like just caring for these dogs every day I don't know, it just opened up this completely new side of me. So I just kept extending out my leave and I was like, I kind of just want to be here right now. I just feel like I'm growing more here. So yeah, very unusual background, but I'm glad where I am right now. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. That is, very untraditional, right?
Yeah.
If you are a medical student, you're typically on a path and you're thinking, okay, here's my 15-year path towards being maybe an attending physician at a hospital or something like that.
Yeah.
So you really took a different path. I mean, was it that you were so burned out, or was it more of just a love for the animals, or maybe both?
Yeah, it was kind of both.
Yeah.
I mean, I was already, taking care of patients and stuff in my day to day. So I was kind of used to that kind of.
So you're a natural empath.
Oh, I would say so. I would say, I hope so. Hard to always determine, but yeah.
I think if you're in this business, it's pretty
you
much
have to be
foregone
for sure.
conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time, as I said, it was completely incidental because I just needed a job. But then I just, realized like I really love taking care of these dogs. I really love just doing this every day. So I didn't mind just putting my other goals because I just felt like this is what I was meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the best part of working at a dog daycare?
I mean, the dogs, obviously, being able to.
Everyone says that, right?
Yeah.
Like every pet parent glorifies, your position because they think all you get to do is play with dogs.
Play with dogs, yeah.
But it's not really the case, right? There's a lot of
it's a lot of cleaning. It's a lot of, just a lot of hard work for sure, physical work. But to me, it's really rewarding, even when it's really hard because, at the end of the day, I'm making your dog happy, safe, comfortable. So I really take a lot of pride in that, both in my kennel attendant position and as a manager here. So,
well, you're working at one of and leading, one of the busiest clubs in out of all of our clubs, be it New York or Chicago. And so what is it that you think contributes to your success there?
I would say, I mean, the biggest thing, and I've been asked this question before, I have an extremely capable and dependable staff. I would say that if I didn't have them, I would be nowhere. Talking to my front desk attendants about like, hey guys, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to communicate with the clients. The back staff, the daycare attendant staff, hey, this is how we need to improve our communication. This is what we need to do with these dogs. If I couldn't tell them these things and they couldn't tell me these things, I would not have been able to keep this club running. So I attribute all of my success to all of my.
Well, I think as a leader, being a great communicator is vitally important.
For sure.
Because you have to be clear about the direction that you want to have the team go. And then you also have to be a great listener too, and then be able to communicate back to them, okay, this is great information. Thank you for giving that to me. Here's what we're going to do with that information. So let's talk about the team a little bit because it's such an important aspect of the business, right? You rely on, as you said, you rely on your team members to make sure that, the care practices are absolutely the best in the industry. You rely on them for information, and you rely on them to actually execute on some of the things that are best for the pet parents and the dogs. So what is it that that you're like in if I were just to say, like, I'm a pet parent and I'm walking into a club, right? What is it that you would be communicating to your team about my dog? Like, and I know that, like, you know, from personal experience, like how specific you get, you know, about caring for each individual pet that walks in the door. But how do you approach that, right? It's difficult. You have sometimes 50, 60 dogs in there. So how are you managing all those different personalities and you know, not just the pet personalities, obviously the parent personalities as well.
For sure. So, I mean, so when they come in for the trial day, we always ask them, both my front desk, employees and also myself, we're asking the pet parent, how does your pet do in situations with other dogs? Have they been in other situations? And we get a myriad of answers. And so we take that information back to the daycare attendant. So it starts on day one. We don't just throw the dog in there and we're like, okay, let us know how it goes.
Right. It's not a free for all.
No,
sure.
absolutely not. And
so there's some method to the madness of doggy daycare.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I pass that information on. So if they say, oh, well, you know, Charlie's a little nervous, so be mindful. I say, hey, they said that Charlie's a little nervous, give breaks if needed, keep me updated. And we keep the pet parent updated too. We text them throughout the day, like, hey, Charlie's doing great, or Charlie's a little nervous. So we did put him in, you know, timeout for a little bit. Or if they're like,
so is your team responding to those, you know, what they're seeing, you know, from the dog immediately?
Absolutely.
Like a nervous dog, what would you have them do?
Yeah. So there's also, I would say my team is so amazing. It's not, okay, is it nervous because there's a lot of dogs ganging up on them because it's a new dog? Or is he just having an off day? Or, you know, so we can have a specialized plan for each dog, but it also just changes day by day. So if it's just nervous because there's a lot of pets.
Right. Let me stop you right there, because you said it changes day by day. Because for those of you who don't know, dogs are, you know, they feel very deeply. They have a range of emotions, and a dog can have, this is what you might not know, a dog can have a bad day just like you. So he might or she might walk into the doggy daycare and something might have happened that day, and that's kind of carried forward, and maybe they're a bit more nervous than usual and they're just not fitting in. And so your team is responding.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, I notice it right away. Like sometimes we'll have dogs that come in that are super excited and one day they're not as excited. So I'm like, hey, is everything okay with Fluffy? And they're like, I'm not sure, you know? And so there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. And then if we have 60 dogs at daycare, that's 60 conversations that we're having every day. But my staff is amazing. They're able to keep on top of it. And throughout the day, again, if the dog starts having a bad day, they'll give him a timeout or they'll give him a break, or we'll call the parent and say, hey, it's just, what would you like us to do? So definitely the biggest thing is, you know, we're not just putting your dog in daycare and then you're coming back at 7 p.m. There's a lot of conversation going on.
So if I'm a new pet parent and I'm walking in for the first time, what is it that I should be looking for? I mean, you obviously talked about great communication, right? And that's a given for me, right? Like I walk in, I've got my dog, I'm a nervous pet parent. I want to make sure that someone's taking care of him to the best of their ability, almost as good as I could. I don't think anyone could provide care as good as I could provide, but you want pretty close.
Yeah.
So what is it that, you know, you're telling me? How are you reassuring me that, you know, both my dog and me are going to have a great experience?
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you exactly like specific things that I've noticed pups do that I don't think other daycare dogs do. So I do love that we give free webcam access for the trial day. So you can keep your eyes on your dog all day. It's different because you're nervous too. That's your child. And if, you know, you're sending your child to school, it's the same thing. So definitely we get that. And you know, you should always make sure that they're asking you a lot of questions, you know, the front desk. So are they asking, hey, is your dog comfortable in social settings? Is your dog a little reactive? Like, what are all the questions that they're asking you? Or are they just taking your dog and dumping them in the back? Right.
So let's just review. You said transparency, number one, right? And webcams, obviously lots of viewing windows as well. And the second part, you said communication. You know, they should be active listeners, listening to what is going on with your dog, or my dog in this case, as I'm bringing it to you, and responding accordingly.
Yep.
What else?
And then are they communicating as well throughout the day? Are they giving you updates even if you didn't ask, you know, because it's your first day?
So are they proactive?
Yeah, proactive, absolutely. Okay. And then another thing, just look at the general settings of like when you walk in, like is the lobby clean? We take a lot of pride in how clean and organized we keep because the visuals matter, if it looks dirty, even if we're taking
If it looks dirty, it is dirty.
Exactly,
right?
Right? If you're walking in and it looks dirty, imagine how dirty it is in the back. Right. So we, cleanliness throughout the club, but especially in the lobby, we like to make sure that the clients are happy and they feel comfortable. So definitely the looks matter. And just, look at the environment. Like, do the employees look happy? Do they look like they're communicating with you? Are they petting your dog? Are they walking up? Just, those are like the softer sides of things, but definitely those matter too. Yeah.
No, all good points. All good points. I would say that you want to walk into an environment where you feel welcome.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just having that feeling, that gut instinct as a pet parent where you feel welcome, but then you're seeing things and hearing things that kind of support that feeling. So I've made a lot of mistakes in my life when I haven't followed my gut. Right. So I think what you're saying is kind of assess your surroundings and go with your gut. If you feel like it's a good place, chances are it is, but be cognizant of the things that you were just mentioning, right? Transparency, communication, cleanliness, organization, and staff interaction, right? How happy they are to see you and your dog.
Right.
So tell me, once I've committed to coming to PUPS, what's going on in the back to make sure that my dog is having an exceptional time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the things that are going on back there that you may not pick up on the webcam is, so we are really strict followers of the 15-2 rule or 15-1 rule. And it's a Chicago law that states that for every 15 dogs, there's one attendant back there. So if we have 30 dogs in there, we've got 2 attendants. You'd think it's law, but so many places don't follow it because they're trying to cut corners. We don't do that here because it's A, for the dog safety, and it's B, also for the employee safety. Because if there's multiple scuffles that are happening here and there and there's only one person in there, that's really, really dangerous. So we have one person that can maybe try and distract the other dogs, and then one person that's maybe trying to break up the scuffle. Or we've got 2 that just split up the dogs and give them attention. Because if there's one dog in there for 30 dogs, those dogs aren't getting the care that they need. So that's definitely number one.
I will interrupt you here for just a second. That's such an important point. People do not realize how important that is. And what Raaga is pointing out here is that a lot of places will cut corners because it's obviously more profitable to have less people in the room. So they'll have one person supervise 30, 40, 50 dogs.
Yep.
And that's obviously against the law, but it's also against good care practices. And so doing what you're saying that we do ensures that the dogs are safe and ensures that the people are safe. It is absolutely a must. Now, some people might say, okay, well, hey, that's not even enough. We found in our experience that it works pretty well for the reasons that you were saying. That one person can be paying attention to the dogs, or while another person could be cleaning, right? Which is obviously important. You have multiple people back there to break up a potential skirmish or fight. And as a result of these practices, of the thousands of dogs that you've seen, I know you don't have the data, I do, but I'm going to say, how many major incidents have you had?
In my 3 months here, I think maybe we've had like 1 or 2, and it's usually the dog is already like maybe on strike 1 or something like that. It's never like, oh, the employee wasn't paying attention and something happened. Right. It's never like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So 3, and let's call it at the top end, 3 in a month's time, taking a 30-day month, 60 dogs a day, it's 1,800 visits times 3. Let me say 2,700, 5,700 visits. Someone out there needs to do the math. 3 incidents in 50 out of 5,700. And were they major life-threatening incidents? More like,
No, they were. We were able to break it up pretty quickly too, and
so it resulted maybe in minor injuries, which could be expected in a.
That's very expected. I would say that's very normal.
Right. So what is expected? Like, if he comes out with a scratch or something like that, is that really what I should expect?
I wouldn't say you should expect it. You should never expect your dog to come up with a scratch.
I don't want him to get a scratch.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, they play rough in there. And sometimes some of the dogs.
They're excited, right?
Yeah, they're excited.
Yeah.
And again, it's like we were talking about, like some of the dogs just sometimes have a bad day and they'll lash out because they're like, oh, I just don't want to talk to you right now. And that's like a really reasonable thing. And it's, again, like a very minor scratch. And we tell the parent and they're like, oh, okay. Like, because it's so minor.
Dogs will be dogs.
Yep.
Dogs will be dogs, right?
Yep.
Well, this is great. I mean, tell me now, I mean, this is awesome about supervision, but tell me what my dog's actually doing back there as compared to other places. Like, I've heard of places that just kind of, as you were saying before, to put them back there, it's kind of like the lowest bar per se of, okay, we're just going to provide the supervision. Maybe it's not adequate supervision, but it's supervision.
Right.
But what are we doing differently?
Yeah. Absolutely. So we did recently, and I say recently, but I think it's been like nearly 2 months now, institute the enrichment activities. Before we were doing enrichment activities, but now we have a curriculum, like an actual school. And we always say, oh, we're taking the dogs to school. So we have various activities.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
That all comes from you guys. Like we come like from the the team, the operations team, we kind of say, okay, let's do these enrichment activities, and then you guys like just totally take ownership of it.
Yeah.
And we call like this school, like we're having class activities today. We're going on a field trip.
Yeah, exactly.
That's super cute. I mean, it's just you're embracing the change, and it's for it's for the good of everyone. It's good of the dogs, good of the pet parents, good of the team members there. Yeah. So tell us about the classroom activities.
The classroom activities, yeah. So we start off with, we have various different enrichment activities like bubble time. We have agility time, book reading time.
I do bubble time with my daughter, by the way. She loves it.
Oh, see, dogs love it too. Yeah, it's just always the small ones that love it, right?
That's right. That's
right. And then we have nap time, music time as well. And the cool thing is, the order of this, I didn't give it an order, but the order of this actually has changed a lot in the last couple months, because the initial order, I remember when we all did it, we all kind of had the same concerns, which is like we were doing the less active ones in the morning, like bubble time or reading time, and the more active ones in the afternoon, which it should really be the opposite. And so what was cool is that there was a lot of communication between the clubs, and we really made this curriculum a lot better. So we do.
So that's really awesome. So what you're saying is, and this is maybe pet parents don't see this, but having a collaborative work environment, which leads to adaptation of programs that are implemented for the better, right? Like, absolutely. So you got these programs that kind of like were like management said, okay, this is something we feel is going to be great for the dogs and great for the team. You got the directive, you implemented it, and then you said, okay, here's what's working great. Here's what's not working so great. Here's what we need to change around. And you did it. You took the initiative. Yeah. So I would say to folks, having a great GM like Raaga out there is also really important for you as a pet parent, to look for in a dog daycare. If you walk in there and you have a leader who's going to say, okay, what's now best for the dogs? We've gotten all this stuff that we need to do, but how can we even do it better? So I love that. I very much commend that.
Yeah, it was very cool to see all of the GMs kind of collaborate on this and kind of say, I think this would be better. And the directors on top, like Liz, were like, oh, okay, like we'll try it this way. And it became so much better. And it really follows the natural rhythm of a dog's day, because when they're first in there, they're just going crazy. So what's the best thing to do that? Bubble time, agility, because let's structure their energy into something that they can really get it out. And then when they start getting quieter, we do reading time, and then we do nap time, music time. So, and the cool thing is the music that we specifically play, I believe it's jazz and reggae. I think that was scientifically proven to be the most, what's the word? Like
calming.
Oh yeah, for a dog. And so, that's what we play in there. And I think we see it too with how dogs respond to it. So, it's not just this like random set of like, we didn't just make up a bunch of activities. Like, these are all scientifically proven to entice dogs in different ways. And by following the way a dog's energy goes throughout the day, we're really adapting them to this, and making sure they have a good day at school,
Right.
Yeah.
So for you pet parents out there, if you walk into a place and you're hearing Metallica, probably not a good thing. Even though I'm a huge Metallica fan, I would love it if there were no dogs there, right?
Yeah.
But if my dog's going, I'd rather hear reggae and classical music.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty cool. And Jazz too.
Yes, and Jazz, yeah.
So give us all like a story about like, what's the cutest, funnest story that you have since you've been working with us?
Oh my gosh.
Or tell us your favorite pup.
My
We won't tell anyone.
I mean, my favorite pup would be all the puppies. It's definitely, we're entering puppy season now. A lot of people are getting their
That is such a politically correct answer. I like that. All the puppies.
All the puppies.
All right, tell us because I don't blame you. You have like one of the best puppy rooms. It's a little bit bigger than most that we have, and it's right up against the storefront, so people can kind of look in.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I've been at your club, I've always seen like the cutest dogs.
So
you want to eat them up. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame you for saying that. But tell us a cute story now. Tell us like a really fun story, that insider story,
An
maybe,
insider story.
if you've got one.
Yeah, I would say, we had one pup come in. I'm not going to say the name because it's kind of a unique name and the pet parent might be able to recognize.
Okay.
But he was very nervous coming in, so scared, was standing in a corner, was shaking, so nervous. And I remember me and the daycare attendants were talking and we were saying like, well, should he even come to daycare because he's so scared?
Right.
But we were just like, let's just keep watching him. Let's just like take him in and out, give him breaks, like let him dictate how he wants to interact with his environment. And it took the course of several visits, but now he is a total social butterfly. He is
So that turnaround, right? That's
absolutely.
Oh my God, it must give you the warm fuzzies
It's
inside.
so nice to see because he just went from being so nervous to so happy. And every time he's leaving, I remember one time I asked the parent, like, how does he do at home now? He's like, oh, he goes home exhausted. Like he just goes home and sleeps because he plays so hard with us. And again, that just goes back to like the communication between me and the daycare attendant in order to see, like what is a plan we can make for him so that he feels comfortable. But also clearly this environment brought him out of his shell, like whatever happened to him before. I think he was adopted, so clearly he came from like a rougher previous life, which is probably why he was so anxious now. But seeing him come out, it's like he really got like a new lease on life, and so that just makes me really happy to see.
No, I love that.
Yeah,
I think you actually point out something really important there. You kind of said it towards the beginning of your story, which is you question, is this environment the right environment for this dog? And a lot of pet parents don't have a choice, right? They're going to work and they don't want to leave their dog home all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are a young puppy, he's going to pee several times. A dog walker, like doing 3 or 4 dog walks a day, is more expensive than daycare. But the daycare environment can be overwhelming for a dog. So it sounds like you made him comfortable over time. But you also question, okay, is this best for this dog right now?
Yes.
And I think that's another important distinction, whereas, a lot of places are just about, okay, the dog walks in and all they're seeing is dollar signs.
Right.
Whereas you're seeing it as, okay, what's in the best interest of this animal?
Right.
Like, and that's really an important distinction to make. I think ultimately you can be successful always thinking what's in the best interest of the animal, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to send a dog home who might be overwhelmed by this environment because it's going to be better for the dog and better for the pet parent.
Yeah.
Daycare is not for everyone.
For everyone.
But having that mentality separates you from other doggy daycares, right? As a leader and as an operator in this business.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say, like I will say, for you, that's something that permeates the entire organization. It's not just you. But I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
That question has gone through your mind. Yeah.
Because we're also considering, sometimes we have dogs that come in and they're hyperactive and they don't have really good recall and they're, not starting fights, but are just acting in a way that bothers the other dogs.
So the total opposite, right?
Yeah.
One that's totally withdrawn and fearful, and the other one that's high drive, high energy, and is going in, and he's like the bull in the china shop.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that dog needs like 3 acres to run around on. And
you do have a pretty big store.
We do, but that dog needs like a countryside farm or something. It was crazy. And I remember we had a conversation with the mom and we told her and we kind of were like, I'm not really sure if this is the right environment for him because I feel like, well, first, the biggest thing is that he didn't have good recall. So we did recommend training. And I will say this is kind of where, we aren't just like, okay, bye, like we're never going to see you again. We, again, try and work with the pet parent because we know, like, you have to go to work, but you have this dog that isn't listening to you, that isn't behaving well, under socialized. So that's when we bring in our training aspect, and we have the trainers look at the dog and say, well, what do you recommend here? So we don't just abandon your dog ever. It's only truly in a dire situation that we say, hey, we can't have your dog here anymore, but we will try every single avenue before we get to that point.
Right.
So,
I think if you reach that point, you have exhausted all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And you're also making that decision in what's the best interest of the dog and the other dogs that you're carrying. So it's a collective decision and a community decision.
It's what's best for the group.
It's what's best for the group, and both canine and human.
And human, yes.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an amazing conversation today. I hope you folks out there have learned a bit about what it is that you should look for in a dog daycare from Raaga. Raaga, thank you for your time today, and thank you for giving us some insight about the goings on of a doggy daycare and what I need to look for as a pet parent when I walk in and consider a dog daycare business.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.